On Vincent's 30th birthday, in front of everyone, his first love forced me to down a shot of strong liquor. She said, "She's only fun when she's drunk. Do you all want to see?" Some people looked concerned. "Vincent, are you sure this is okay?" Vincent's voice was cold. "It's fine. She has dementia, anyway. She won't remember anything tomorrow." He held my hand like I was an obedient puppet, because no matter how he treated me, by the next morning, I would only remember him as someone who loved me. Vincent had invited many people to his 30th birthday party. Some were old classmates from school, and many others were people I didn't know. During dinner, they started playing Truth or Dare. "Vincent, when are you and Sherry getting married?" "Sherry, that's me." I'd been with Vincent for years, from when he had nothing to now, when he's finally successful. But still, we aren't married. "We'll see, there's no rush," Vincent replied casually, not even bothering to elaborate. He didn't want to, especially since his first love, Hannah, was sitting across from us. Hannah had flown back from overseas just to see Vincent. Word was that he had already arranged a position for her at his company. She toyed with her wine glass, seemingly drunk. "I have a personal question for Vincent. Is the person you love here tonight?" Her words caused a stir among the guests. Vincent, right in front of her, held my hand. "The only person I love is Sherry." Hannah's expression faltered. She seemed stunned, then forced a bitter smile and said, "Okay." But I was the only one who knew. Vincent was gripping my hand so tightly, he was almost breaking it. He wanted nothing more than for Hannah to break down and beg him to get back together with her. When it was my turn next in the game, Hannah, unwilling to give up, looked at Vincent with pleading eyes. "Vincent, let her do the dare, please?" I looked at Vincent in disbelief. He knew that the dare was to down an entire glass of vodka. But just one request from Hannah, and Vincent was willing to let it happen. "Fine," he said. Hannah, suddenly excited, pulled her chair out and brought a glass of vodka over. "She's only fun when she's drunk. Do you all want to see?" Back in school, Hannah tricked me into drinking, then stripped off my clothes and took photos. I'd never forgotten it all these years. Panicking, I grabbed my bag. "I'm not playing anymore. I'm going home." Hannah, somehow finding the strength, along with a few others, grabbed my arm. "Sherry, you lost the game. Own up to it." "Vincent, please, don't do this. I can't handle alcohol." Vincent sat at the table, not even bothering to lift his eyelids. "If you go along with her, I'll marry you." Hannah pried my jaw open and forced the glass of vodka down my throat. I choked and coughed violently. Some of the old classmates were concerned. "Vincent, are you sure this is okay?" Vincent sneered. "It's fine. She has dementia, anyway. She won't remember anything tomorrow." I was still coughing, gasping for air, and in a burst of anger, I slapped Vincent across the face. The room fell silent. A red handprint appeared on Vincent's face. Hannah gasped and tried to rush over, but Vincent coldly pushed her away. "It's fine. I'm used to it." The truth was, I had only found out this morning that I was sick. Vincent's birthday morning, I had been excitedly making him a cake. He grabbed the ingredients from my hands and threw them straight into the trash. "Stop. I don't like cake." But he used to love it. Carefully, I asked, "Vincent, are you mad at me?" Without a word, he handed me his tie. "Sherry, help me with my tie." Before I could respond, I lost control of my bladder. The living room was a mess, and I stood there, shocked, as the sound of liquid dripping reached my ears. What's happening to me? Vincent's face, once calm, suddenly tensed. In silence, he crouched down and cleaned the floor, not saying a single word. I trailed behind him, completely at a loss. "Vincent, I don't know what's happening to me." He washed his hands multiple times before finally saying, "You're sick." The disgust on his face was unmistakable as he said it. I knew, if it weren't for all the years we'd been through together, Vincent would have already left me. After he went to work, it took me hours to come to terms with my illness. Anxious, I went to his office that afternoon, only to see Hannah standing outside, covered in dirt like she had fallen. Draped over her shoulders was Vincent's expensive coat. The way she looked at him was filled with longing. Vincent acted indifferent, but when Hannah lowered her head, he stared at her in silence. And then, tonight happened. When we got home from the party, it was already late. Vincent suddenly informed me, "Hannah's coming over in a few days to check on you. Be good, and don't start a fight with her." After all I had gone through today, I was emotionally on the brink of collapse. Why? Is she coming to see when I'll die? Sherry, stop being irrational. I know. I'm sick. No matter how you treat me, by the next morning, I'll forget everything and wake up loving you like before, right? But Vincent, I'm the one suffering here. Why can't I be angry? If she dares step into this house, I'll kill her. Vincent gently gripped the back of my neck, forcing me to look into his eyes. His gaze was soft, and he smiled as he said, "Sherry, you can throw as many fits as you want, but this is between us. Don't hurt anyone else, okay?" Was he feeling sorry for me now? I smashed nearly everything on the shelves. The house was a mess. But Vincent wasn't mad. "There's more in the bedroom, and if that's not enough, I can buy more. Smash as much as you like." His cold indifference was driving me insane. I bit into his skin, hard enough to draw blood. Vincent frowned slightly, then carried me into the bedroom, whispering into my ear, "Crazy girl, be good tonight. This month alone, you've broken up with me 18 times. Each time, you forget the next day. Sherry, this is your life now." Vincent was wrong. I've always been someone with resolve. When I chased after him, I could take the subway across the entire city. And when I decided to leave, I could stay up all night, repeating everything he'd done to me 1,000 times, afraid that I'd forget once I fell asleep. At dawn, Vincent got up to take a call. It was Hannah, inviting him to stop by her place for breakfast on his way to work. Vincent quietly got dressed and said, "Wait for me." The door closed softly. I opened my eyes, reached into the drawer, and pulled out a video camera. I recorded everything that happened yesterday to remind myself that I had to leave. While doing so, I stumbled upon an old video. It turns out, this wasn't the first time I'd discovered Vincent cheating. On my birthday, Vincent had accompanied Hannah to an OB/GYN appointment. The prescription slip was for folic acid, along with an ultrasound report. On our anniversary, I found a reservation in his car for a 5-star restaurant and 2 tickets to a private movie screening. The film was called Affection. On that same day, I had looked into the camera, red-eyed, and said, "I'm pregnant, but I don't want to tell Vincent." The camera lingered on an ultrasound report. But last night, to make Hannah happy, Vincent let her force alcohol down my throat. A sharp pain spread from my chest, turning into an unbearable ache, leaving me trembling. I suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to confront Vincent, unable to wait another second. So, I ran to his office. As I pushed open the door, I heard Hannah sobbing inside. "I regret it, Vincent." Vincent responded, "Sherry's illness isn't better yet. I know, but I can't wait any longer. The person I love is right in front of me, yet I have to endure." "Shut up." Vincent's sudden cold tone startled me. "Hannah, don't ever say something like that in front of me again." His secretary rushed over to stop me. "Miss Sherry, Vincent has a guest. It's not convenient for you to go in. Please wait outside." "Okay." I changed my mind and wandered aimlessly into the lobby, where I pulled out the expensive lipstick Vincent had given me and started scribbling on the bulletin board. A few minutes later, the secretary shrieked and rushed over to stop me. "Miss Sherry, what are you doing?" The massive bulletin board had their faces circled by me. Next to it, in bright red lipstick, were 4 words, "Cheating bastard and bitch." Hannah had just walked out when she saw the scene. Her face went pale, and she furiously pulled out a tissue to wipe it off. "Sherry, what the hell are you doing?" I curled my lips into a smile. "What do you think I'm doing? You shameless homewrecker." I spat out the last 2 words slowly and deliberately, seething with rage. Hannah's expression shifted slightly, and she barked at the people around her. "What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and wipe it off." Everyone here followed her orders without question, as if they had already accepted her as their superior. When Hannah turned back again, I noticed a familiar hair clip in her hair. It was the one I had left in Vincent's office last time. She had obviously showered, as her hair was still wet. I reached up to grab that hair clip. Hannah, startled like she'd been stung, screamed and shoved me hard. The force was so strong that I crashed into the desk, knocking down folders and a printer in the process. I fell into the mess, stunned. A few seconds later, a dull pain radiated from my lower abdomen. I trembled all over in pain, barely managing to stand with someone's help. In the chaos, Hannah frowned and leaned in to whisper in my ear. "Stop acting crazy. I'm warning you, I am not the other woman." She gripped my wrist tightly, her tone forceful. "Sherry, apologize to me right now, in front of the whole office." As I shook with fury at her shameless words, I suddenly felt a warm liquid trickling down my legs. And just like that, Hannah's attitude shifted dramatically. She started crying and pleading loudly. "Sherry, please, just let me go. I'm begging you. I swear, there's nothing going on between me and Vincent. Please, stop tormenting me." At that moment, a hand grabbed my wrist tightly from behind. A strong force yanked me backward. Vincent slammed me hard against the wall, gritting his teeth. "Sherry, haven't I told you not to hurt others?" It was the first time Vincent had ever yelled at me. Hannah's sobs were soft, like a pitiful kitten. With a stern face, Vincent scanned everyone present. "There is nothing immoral going on between Miss Hannah and me. If anyone continues to spread rumors, I will pursue legal action at all costs. See? He's finally getting desperate." Drip. A drop of blood fell onto my foot. Vincent's secretary gasped, "Vincent, Miss Sherry, she's bleeding." Vincent looked down and saw the trail of blood running down my leg. He stared at me in shock. I gave him a twisted smile and said, "Vincent, Hannah killed our child. Tell me, does she deserve to live?" Whispers filled the room. Did she? Couldn't hold it in? It was only then that I realized it wasn't just blood. The blood, mixed with some unknown fluid, was dripping down the back of my legs and pooling on the floor. This might be the most humiliating moment of my life. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Hannah looked flustered. "I thought she was going to." Vincent ignored her, pulling out a handkerchief and crouching down. He gently grasped my ankle and said, "Don't move, let me clean it up." Soon, his pristine suit was stained with blood. Even the hand holding my ankle was wet. "Vincent." Hannah started to speak. "Get out." Vincent suddenly roared, startling me. "Get the hell out, all of you." Hannah, sobbing, turned and ran out. The crowd slowly dispersed as well. I stood there. "Vincent, if you think I'm embarrassing you, just say it." He kept his head down, a vein throbbing at his temple. But all he said in the end was, "Sherry, let's go to the hospital." "What about Hannah?" "Do whatever you want with her." Vincent's voice was soft, as if he was too tired to argue with me anymore. "I don't want to see her again." "All right, I'll make sure she's gone." After coming back from the hospital, Vincent and I fell into a cold war. The divorce agreements I printed out repeatedly were thrown into the shredder by him without a word. He wouldn't even let me leave the house. In his words, I didn't have any family, and as someone who couldn't take care of herself, I wouldn't survive without him. He was terrifyingly cold. He despised me, yet acted as if we were a loving couple. Every day, he came home on time and ate dinner with me. One day, when he came home, I noticed he was wearing a ring on his ring finger. It was the style I hated the most. But it was Hannah's favorite. "Can you take it off?" "It's disgusting." Vincent paused, put down his bowl, and without saying a word, took off the ring and put it in his pocket. But he wouldn't throw it away. I lost my appetite, set down my bowl, and left the dining table. "Sherry, let's get married." Vincent suddenly called out to me from behind. In the past, I would have been thrilled. But I knew that he didn't mean it. Right now, Vincent's company was on the verge of going public, and the last thing he wanted was a scandal. The idea of marrying me wasn't some sudden realization or act of repentance. I turned around and sneered at him, "You want to marry me to stabilize things, get your company successfully listed, and then live happily ever after with Hannah? Vincent, you're dreaming." I didn't expect his revenge would come so quickly. When I woke up from my nap at noon, I heard a commotion downstairs. I opened the door and walked out, only to find a bunch of strangers in the house. Hannah had shown up at some point. She sat in one of the dining room chairs, arms crossed, wearing my slippers, directing people to move things. She looked every bit like the mistress of the house. Throw away that bed, the blankets, and the clothes in the wardrobe. The nursery, which had been tightly shut since the loss of the baby, was now opened. All the things I had carefully prepared were being thrown out. What are you doing? Hannah heard my voice, lifted her head, and flashed a mocking smile. You're awake? Vincent asked me to get people to tear down the nursery and redecorate. So you won't feel sad seeing it. Oh, by the way, once the room is emptied, I'll be able to live here. Isn't that great? My mind buzzed, and I felt my heart race, blood rushing to my head. Vincent had sworn to me that he wouldn't let Hannah appear in front of me. Yet now, she was planning to move into the house. Barefoot, I ran downstairs over the mess, and there, I saw the baby's crib broken into pieces. Scattered among the debris were the little clothes and shoes Vincent and I had picked out for the baby during our trips to the mall. But the Lucky Charm I had spent 3 months making for our baby was nowhere to be found. Where's the Lucky Charm? Hannah shrugged. It was an eyesore, so I threw it out. Where? Maybe the garden or the pool? It was just some meaningless trinket, who knows? If I don't find that charm, both you and Vincent can go to hell. I shoved her away from me and ran toward the garden, ignoring the fact that I wasn't wearing shoes. Hannah stood by the window, sneering at me. Sherry, just look at yourself. Do you really think you deserve Vincent? His company is about to go public. As the CEO of a publicly listed company, he needs a poised and gentle wife. But you're practically demented. What else can you do besides wet yourself in public? Please, stop using the fact that you suffered with him to tie Vincent down. Name your price. Vincent and I will pay you, just leave him alone, okay? Look at yourself now. What makes you think you have the right to demand that he still love you? As dusk approached, I knelt in the overgrown bushes of the garden, searching everywhere, ignoring Hannah's taunts. My white nightgown was filthy, and my legs and feet were scratched. When I couldn't find it in the bushes, I turned and headed for the pool. As I stood up, I crashed into someone's arms. Vincent held me tightly, his voice cold and detached. Why did you make yourself so filthy? I turned and grabbed his shirt fiercely, shouting. Vincent, were you really that eager to tear down the nursery? Thunder rumbled overhead, signaling an incoming storm. The air was heavy, making it hard to breathe. Vincent raised a hand to touch my face, but he turned away, avoiding my gaze. Keeping the room only makes you sad. Hannah suddenly rushed over, starting to cry. Vincent, she seems to hate me. The way she looks at me is terrifying. Vincent didn't reply, but his eyes were glued to her. I couldn't bear to watch their silent exchange of affection anymore. I shoved Vincent away and headed towards the pool. Sherry, it's dangerous over there. Vincent grabbed my wrist, trying to pull me back. A sudden surge of rage welled up, and I bit down hard on his wrist, hearing Vincent stifle a groan. He didn't move, nor did he let go. The metallic taste of blood slowly seeped out. At that moment, the sky finally broke, and rain began to pour down. Ripples formed on the surface of the water. Feigning concern, Hannah hurried over with an umbrella. Listen to Vincent and go back inside, all right? If you catch a cold, you might wet yourself again, won't you? As she spoke, she gave me a provocative look, smug with the belief that she had won Vincent's trust. The rain came down harder, and the water in the pool was starting to overflow. Without the lights, the dark pool looked like a gaping, beastly maw. Suddenly, I grabbed Hannah by the hair and shoved her toward the pool. Sherry! Vincent yelled angrily, crouching down to pull me away. But he couldn't. Because I had thrown my entire weight onto Hannah. Hannah's body thrashed in the pool, her dark hair floating around her as she struggled desperately. Before long, she stopped moving. Exhausted, I let her go. Hannah lay at the edge of the pool like a dying dog. Vincent's face was ashen as he pulled her out of the water. He sat by the poolside, cradling her in his arms, patting her back frantically. Come on, spit it out. You'll be fine if you just spit it out. His hands were trembling, his voice incoherent. Hannah hadn't even opened her eyes yet, and she was already sobbing. Don't let me see her. I don't want to. Vincent's eyes burned with anger. Sherry, go back inside. Then, he turned back to comfort Hannah. I'll take you to the hospital. You can still talk, can't you? I lunged at Hannah again. Sherry. Vincent blocked my arms, shielding Hannah. And then, in the next second, splash. I lost my balance and fell into the deep pool. The water surged around me from all sides. It swallowed my face, my senses. Before I sank to the bottom, I caught one last glimpse of Vincent's cold, distant gaze. Because I had hurt Hannah, he had laid hands on me. The nurse told me this was my 8th hospital admission this year. After falling into the water, my body became weak, and I would often shiver under the blankets with a fever. The fever-reducing shots I got every day were painful. But I had no one to complain to. I didn't know what Vincent had told the doctors and nurses, but it seemed like everyone assumed I was his wife. Disgusting. The caregiver was talking to me when Vincent called. She pressed the speaker button and held the phone to my ear. Sherry, Vincent's voice was hoarse, eat properly, or I'll come and watch you myself. I looked up and saw him standing outside the window, watching me. A threat, huh? I picked up the meal box and, right in front of him, threw it into the trash. Vincent, why don't you go to hell? His face, pale with an unhealthy sickness, didn't react to my words. Is that so? He chuckled softly, then I guess I'll just have to watch you eat every day. Once my condition stabilized, I was moved from the ICU to a private room. From then on, I was completely under Vincent's control. He visited me every day, saying, Sherry, you need to take care of your health. Watching the news about his company going public on TV, I could pretty much foresee my own ending. Once I helped him stabilize public opinion and successfully list the company, I'd be sent to a mental hospital. Eat some apple. Vincent placed a bowl of small apple chunks in front of me. Taking advantage of the moment when he reached out, I lowered my head and bit his wrist. The same spot as last time. The wound hadn't healed yet, and I bit it open again. Only when I tasted blood did I release, satisfied. Vincent didn't even blink. Next time, bite the other side. If you keep biting the same spot, it'll leave a scar. Yesterday, I had tried poking his wound with a toothpick and sprinkling salt on it. So today, both the toothpick and the salt packet were gone. Vincent, you should have the word bastard engraved on your face. Suddenly, Vincent grabbed the back of my neck and kissed me. His kiss was rough and fierce, and he bit my lip until it bled. Seeing me glaring at him like he was my enemy, he smiled wide. I don't expect you to love me. As long as you remember me, that's enough. His touch disgusted me. I slapped him. His head tilted from the blow, and he softly asked, feel better now? I curled my lips, not yet. Unless you drown in a swimming pool. After saying that, I turned down the AC temperature, curled up under the blanket, and stared at him with only my eyes showing. Vincent, who was already sick, looked even paler from the cold draft. Just wait a little longer. Once the nurse finishes with the 4, I'll leave. By the time it was over, an hour had passed. Vincent's face had turned blue from the cold, and his coughing had worsened. After that, he disappeared for several days. During that time, I got a call from Hannah. She was shaking with anger, her voice trembling. Can you stop tormenting Vincent? He's sick, with a fever that won't go down. That's when I found out he had really jumped into the pool that rainy night to look for a lucky charm for a child. And what does that have to do with me? If you were capable, he wouldn't need me for the company's IPO. Too bad, you're just a mistress no one can respect. Hannah slammed down the phone in fury. I had hoped Vincent would die from his illness, but fate didn't go as I wished. Vincent was still alive, and half a month later, he arranged for my discharge. In December, before Vincent's company went public, he took me away. The plane landed in Hong Kong at dusk. On the bustling streets, he held my hand as we walked around openly. I had no idea why he bought me so many things. Hats, clothes, bags. The best-looking ones were on me, and the extras, he carried. Don't look so glum, smile a bit. Vincent seemed happy. He pinched my cheek and put a fuzzy hat on me. Looks great. Back when he was first starting his business, I had accompanied Vincent to Hong Kong once. We had little money back then, couldn't afford a hotel room in the 4-figure range, or even a meal in the triple digits. Vincent and I walked along Victoria Harbour, staring silently at a yacht chartered by a rich man. Now, he told me, Sherry, I booked the entire yacht. Do you want to see the night view? With my hands in my pockets, I stood by the harbor, wearing a cute pink fox hat, and said coolly, whatever. Vincent chuckled, all right, just think of it as keeping me company. His company was going public tomorrow, and tonight he was undoubtedly in high spirits. The night view of Victoria Harbor was grand and dazzling. I stood on the deck, feeling the breeze as music from the band behind me echoed in the night sky. Vincent handed me a cup of hot milk. Why don't you come inside for a bit? It's cold out here. I stood still. Sherry, don't stand too far out, it's not safe. Vincent pulled me closer and tied up my windblown hair, tucking it into the warm, fuzzy hat. I stared at the deep sea and suddenly asked, what do you think would happen if I jumped from here? Your company's listing ceremony would probably be interrupted, wouldn't it? Vincent froze for a moment, then bent down and hugged me. Sherry, his scent wrapped around me with the wind, if that happens, I'll die with you. I laughed, what are you saying? Tomorrow's your big day. I won't jump. Vincent laughed too, then let's go inside. There's a piano performance, your favorite. I let him hold my hand, and we walked into the spotlight together, watched by many. The smooth piano music started playing. Vincent, as graceful as ever, leaned down and kissed my forehead. Sherry, happy 10th anniversary. So, we've been together for 10 years already. Is there a surprise? Vincent hooked his arm around mine. There is, but it's for tomorrow night. I said, Vincent, I have a surprise for you too. Vincent's black eyes fixed on me. Really? Yeah. Sometimes I found Vincent ridiculous. After all these years, why insist on keeping up the pretense of being a loving couple when everything had changed? Vincent's phone rang. No need to guess who it was. I smiled and said, go take it. Don't delay important things. Vincent kissed my forehead, then walked a short distance away to answer the call. As soon as he turned around, the smile on my face vanished, and I walked toward the deck. The cold wind swept through the glamorous Victoria Harbor. I reached the railing and took off the high heels he had bought me, placing them neatly by the side. The chill crept up from the soles of my feet. Not far away, I could hear Vincent on the phone, don't worry. I'll marry you as soon as I get back. See, he had been planning his future with Hannah all along. At some point, it had started raining. I took off my hat, touched it, and threw it into the darkness. I watched as it got caught on the side of the ship, tumbling with the waves. I turned and walked to a window on the side of the ship and wrapped my down jacket tighter. On my phone screen was the message I had sent to the police. Vincent has kidnapped me. By the end of tonight, his reputation would be in ruins. A few minutes later, Vincent rushed onto the deck. Has anyone seen my wife? He grabbed a passing crew member, his voice suddenly frantic. A large group of people followed him out, speaking in broken Mandarin. She walked out here. I sat still, curled up in a corner, watching them frantically search for me. Vincent saw my shoes on the deck, and his face turned ashen. Someone pointed to the sea. I saw her hat down there. Vincent suddenly went mad and started stripping off his clothes, but people stopped him. Sir, let the professionals handle it. Vincent started shouting, she's my wife. Who else would truly save her but me? Let me go. I'll find her. The crowd held him back by the waist, dragging him away. Calm down. You need to stay calm. It's too dark, you won't find her if you jump. Vincent's eyes were bloodshot, nearly pleading, I can do it, I can find her, please let me go. I watched Vincent putting on an act in front of everyone, and a mocking smile appeared on my face. How had I never noticed before that Vincent was such a good actor? Sir, you must stay calm. We'll call the police for you. Vincent sat slumped on the ground, silent. My brother, seeing him stop struggling, let go and pulled out his phone to make the call. The next second, Vincent flipped over the railing. The splash of water couldn't pierce the thickness of the night. I stood up in a daze, the smile vanishing from my face. The wind swept over the empty deck. Vincent had disappeared. In the end, someone found me at the door of a storage room on the side of the cruise ship. The rescue team searched the whole night and eventually pulled Vincent's soaked body from the sea. He was rushed to a nearby hospital. Miss Sherry, your husband is still in critical condition. As for the charges you're bringing against him, we'll have to wait until he's out of danger to investigate. But don't worry, our colleagues will make sure you're protected the entire time. At the police station, I watched the news report on the incident. After a long time, I finally spoke. He knew jumping would kill him, so why did he do it? The female officer looked puzzled. Maybe because you're his wife? I said nothing. As for his treatment, don't involve me. He has a lover named Hannah. You can contact her. The next day, the female officer came to see me again. Miss Sherry, we couldn't find any contact information for Miss Hannah on Mr. Vincent's phone. Could you provide it for us? I shook my head. I don't have it. Vincent had protected her well, we didn't even have her contact details. But as far as we know, Mr. Vincent had no other family besides you. Frustrated, I snapped, that's impossible. Go ask at his company. Find his secretary, he'll tell you how to reach Hannah. Miss Sherry, you suffer from Alzheimer's. Your attending physician told us that for a long time now, you've been convinced that Mr. Vincent has been cheating with a woman named Hannah. And this isn't the first time you've acted out violently. Unfortunately, she doesn't exist, she's purely imaginary. I listened to her words in a daze, before suddenly laughing. Vincent's gone to such lengths to protect her? The officer frowned, her expression stern. I'm not joking with you. Mr. Vincent has no other family. Whether or not he continues to receive treatment is up to you. Enough, I said, standing up, emotions running high. If you called me here today for this, then I'll tell you, I want Vincent dead. The officer sighed and handed me a phone. These are Mr. Vincent's belongings. You're responsible for them now. If you need anything, you can always contact me. When I left the police station, it was raining. The air was cold and damp. I wrapped my scarf tightly around myself and found a random bench on the street to sit down. I pulled out Vincent's phone. I pressed the power button, and a fingerprint lock appeared. I placed my thumb on it. To my surprise, it unlocked. I couldn't even remember when I had added my fingerprint to his phone. His phone wasn't cluttered with apps, and the contact list held hundreds of names. I typed in Hannah's name, but nothing came up. I tried several different searches, all to no avail. I closed my eyes, suddenly unable to remember what Hannah even looked like. That's when I found a private album. A password prompt popped up on the screen. Without thinking, I entered my birthday. When the password unlocked, I felt hollow inside. What greeted me was a series of VCR recordings. Blood rushed to my head, pounding in my ears over and over again. I clicked on the first one. It was autumn of 2015. The video started playing automatically. A joyful voice rang out from the speakers. Vincent, happy 3rd anniversary. Congratulations to me for graduating and to you for successfully starting your company. I instantly recognized my own voice. I had been the one to shoot this video. Yet I no longer remembered any of it. In the candlelight, a much younger Vincent looked up and gazed into the camera. A giggle spilled from the footage. Why are you staring at me? Do you prefer the south side or the north side of the city? What? I'm buying a house. Pick a place you like, and we'll make it our home. In the video, I squealed, leaping toward Vincent and throwing my arms around his neck, kissing him. In a dim, unseen corner, Vincent's ears quietly turned red. The next video was from the spring of 2016. Vincent was drunk. I was overly excited, shoving the camera in his face. Let's interview Vincent. Who did you drink with to get this drunk? Vincent closed his eyes and grabbed my hand, pressing it to his chest. He mumbled something. What did you say? I hadn't heard clearly and brought the camera closer. 200,000. I made 200,000. Call Sherry. Have her keep an eye on him. Collect the final payment. I playfully tickled his lips and eyelashes with a strand of hair. Why should Sherry keep an eye on him? What's in it for her? Vincent mumbled, transfer it to her account. After that, the camera spun, crashing to the ground, landing near the trash can. Vincent's head ended up in the trash, and the sound of him vomiting was unmistakable. Off camera, I frantically yelled, "Hold on, I'll take you to the hospital." More than 100 videos captured our past. From Vincent starting his company to its gradual growth. Our surroundings had changed from a cheap rental to an apartment and then a grand villa. In none of the videos was Hannah ever mentioned. The sky darkened, and neon lights flickered on the street. I felt a chill and tightened my scarf, clicking on the next video. It was 2018. In this video, Vincent and I were sitting together in front of the camera. I was smiling brightly. But Vincent's face was serious. From our clothes, it was clear that we had become quite wealthy. I nudged Vincent playfully, laughing. "What's wrong?" "Smile." Vincent lowered his gaze, looking at me intently, and gently patted my head. I turned back to the camera, but as I kept smiling, my eyes reddened. I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's today. I always thought I just had a bad memory. I never imagined I'd end up with a disease like this, at such a young age. The doctor said if I manage it well, the condition will progress slowly. I want to break up, but Vincent won't let me. Vincent held me close, stubbornly saying, "We're not breaking up. You know I'm going to forget everything, including you. I'll throw fits, yell, and do irrational things. Vincent, you're successful now. You don't deserve a wife like me dragging you down." Vincent's voice choked. "If you forget everything one day, the pain won't be yours to bear. Sherry, no matter what, I won't leave you. Let's get married. Right now." I smiled, playfully saying, "I've hidden the household registration booklet. If I ever get better, I'll tell you where it is, and we'll go register our marriage." "I can't wait." Tears welled up in Vincent's eyes as he pleaded, "Let's do it today, please." I kissed him gently on the lips. "Be good. Listen to me. When my condition isn't so bad, we'll get married." In the next videos, Vincent was the one behind the camera. I became the star in front of it. Wearing an apron, I proudly showed off my cooking skills by the oven. "What flavor cake do you like?" I asked. Vincent quietly turned off the gas stove I had forgotten to close. "Lemon." I hummed a little tune. "Then we'll make lemon." "Oh wait, what's the next line of that song?" Vincent joined in, humming along with me. In the dim room, I curled up on the sofa, silently crying. On the TV, a movie had already finished. Vincent smiled. "Why are you crying?" I clutched the tissue, that was so touching. "If this movie gets shown in theaters, we have to go see it." "Sure. Remember, it's the English version of Ambiguity, not the Korean one." "Got it." The scene shifts, revealing a chaotic mess on the kitchen counter. Wearing an apron, I looked bewildered. "What kind of cake do you like?" Vincent quietly tossed some paint aside and said, "Sorry, I forgot to buy the ingredients today. How about we eat out?" "But it's your birthday. Don't you like cake?" He kissed me and said, "Cake makes you gain weight. You wouldn't like a fat Vincent, would you?" I thought for a moment, then followed him to get dressed. As we headed out the door, I muttered, "Actually, a chubby Vincent could be cute." Later, the videos became shorter. Sometimes, I'd unexpectedly lose control on camera. Vincent would set the camera down and rush over to help me clean up with practiced ease. "Vincent, I'm sorry." "Don't say sorry, it's not your fault, and you're not bothering me." Gradually, I became moody and unpredictable. One minute, I'd be talking nicely with Vincent, and the next, I'd suddenly throw something at him. In one video, I was screaming at a woman who just walked in. She held her head, panicked, and cried out, "Sherry, it's Hedda. I'm your best friend, please don't do this to me." I threw a small cake at her face. "Vincent, take your lover and get out." A few minutes later, the video captured the sound of my muffled sobs. "Vincent, please, can we break up? I don't want to keep lashing out at you like a crazy person." "It's okay. I don't mind, Sherry, I really don't mind. Next time, can you just tell me that I have dementia, that I'm sick? If I knew, I would try to control it." "Okay." After that, the videos became Vincent's solo monologues. "This is Sherry's third time being hospitalized this year. She's starting to hate me. She sees every woman around me as the non-existent Hannah, attacking and despising them. Lately, she's been a bit more temperamental because she believes she's pregnant. The doctor suggested I send her to a care facility. but I can't bear to do that. I've told her countless times that I love her, but she never remembers. Vincent's eyes turned red. He lowered his head and steadied his emotions. So, I'll just take a break for now, spend more time with her, and take things slow. It'll get better. The next clip showed a crowd of people. I watched for a while, before realizing it was Vincent's recent birthday party. Vincent, when are you and Sherry getting married? Vincent glanced at me, a bit disheartened. No rush, we'll see. When she's healthier, we might have a wedding abroad. Later, at the party, they started playing Truth or Dare. A woman across from us pressed her hands on the round table, staring directly at Vincent. Vincent, let me ask you a personal question. Is the person you love here? The room erupted with laughter. Vincent, think before you answer. Hedda is Sherry's best friend. If you offend her, you're in trouble. Vincent squeezed my hand. The only person I love is Sherry. Hedda's eyes welled up. All right, I hope you mean what you say. When it was my turn, Hedda softly asked, Sherry, it's time to take your medicine, okay? The version of me sitting across the table hung my head in a daze, as if I hadn't heard anything. Hedda forced a strained smile and tried another approach. Sherry, don't you like drinking? Let's have a drink, okay? I finally reacted, lifting my head to look at her. Hedda, encouraged by my response, breathed a sigh of relief and picked up a bowl of medicine, walking over. Drinking is fun, Sherry, give it a try. In a panic, I grabbed my bag. I'm not playing anymore, I want to go home. Everyone stared at me, bewildered. Hedda grabbed me and held my face gently, coaxing, just open your mouth, it'll be quick, okay? I struggled violently, nearly knocking over the medicine bowl several times. Vincent, listening to my cries, pressed his lips together, his hands clenched tightly with veins bulging. Sherry, listen to her. Once you take the medicine, we'll get married. Hedda, using both patience and force, managed to get the medicine down my throat. Her hand now had several scratch marks from my nails. That's enough for today. We'll figure something else out tomorrow. Vincent, are you sure this is okay? People asked with concern. Vincent gave a bitter smile. It's fine. She won't remember any of this by tomorrow anyway. Raindrops tapped against the awning. I tilted my head up, blankly staring at the sky. For some reason, I couldn't piece together what Hannah even looked like in my mind. I searched for Hedda's name in my phone. Opening our chat history, it had been stuck on a message from long, long ago. Hedda, Vincent's birthday is coming up. I'm planning a surprise for him. What are you going to do? Invite his friends over for a small gathering. You're the life of the party, so come up with a few fun questions. Ha ha ha, I get it. You want to ask him in front of everyone if he loves you, right? Don't worry, I got this. At the end of 2022, I was standing on a street in Hong Kong, crying uncontrollably. Through a glass window, I saw Vincent, covered in tubes. Did you make the payment? The doctor asked. I felt helpless. I'm sorry, I can't remember the password to my bank card. Try again. Your husband's life is hanging by a thread. This is the time he needs you most. If the payment remains overdue, we can't prescribe many of the necessary medications. Okay. I didn't have much cash and nowhere to stay. I spent the whole day pacing in front of the payment window, entering the wrong password over and over again. The staff behind the window said, Miss, can you stop causing a disturbance? By evening, with the little money I had left, I bought 2 pieces of bread. I stood at the entrance of the ICU, repeatedly saying, for Vincent. Doctors and nurses rushed past me. One nurse urgently pulled me aside. Did you forget again? You're supposed to make the payment, not buy bread. Seeing my confused expression, she sighed and walked away. Someone bumped into me, and the bread fell to the floor. I suddenly burst into tears. I felt like a useless wreck. The door in front of me opened. A nurse crouched down and handed me a stuffed toy. Your husband woke up. He wanted me to give this to you. He also said not to be afraid or cry. Someone will come to take you to a hotel later. I clutched the toy, remembering only one thing: Vincent woke up. I waited outside the ICU for days. No one could convince me to leave. When I got tired, I curled up on the small mat in the hallway and slept. When I woke up, I'd fill my stomach with the food the doctors gave me. I don't know how many days later, Vincent was finally wheeled out. Holding the toy, I stood by his bed. Vincent had lost so much weight. Seeing me, he sighed. What I feared most happened. Were they bullying you while I was gone? I sobbed. They wouldn't let me buy you bread. Don't cry, Vincent held my hand. It breaks my heart when you cry. I followed Vincent to the general ward. I clung to his hand, refusing to leave his side. Whenever strangers came into the room, I'd shrink into the corner, trembling with fear. After a while, Vincent stopped letting people in. Sometimes, he would push himself to go to the door. Through his loose hospital gown, I could see the scars all over his body. Bites, scratches, bruises, and cuts, some were still healing, others had just begun to fade. I followed him, gently placing my hand on the back of his neck, feeling his tension and stiffness. Did I used to hit you? Vincent slowly relaxed and adjusted his clothes. Nothing happened. You're always so good. You never give me any trouble. I said weakly, I lied to you about jumping off the cruise ship and ruined your company's IPO. That's not what happened. You're remembering it wrong. Just get some rest, you'll feel better. I curled up next to him and drifted into a deep sleep. I had some strange, chaotic dreams. In the dream, I remembered Hedda's face. She was crying and arguing with Vincent in his office. I regret it. I never should have let Sherry stay by your side. I'm taking her abroad to find the best doctors. You think I didn't try that? Then why isn't she getting better? I'm losing my mind. Every day, she treats me like a stranger. The person I love is right in front of me, and I have to hold back, can't even say a word to Sherry. Vincent, do you think you're the only one who loves her? I do too. Shut up. Vincent's face turned cold. Hedda, don't ever say things like that in front of me again. Later, I went crazy scribbling on the company bulletin board. Hedda ran over, her face turning green. She shielded my face, shouting at the onlookers, "Get out of here. What are you filming? Want me to sue you? Sherry, this is Vincent's company. Let's go home and talk, okay?" I didn't listen. Instead, I pushed her away. You homewrecker. Go to hell. Hedda grabbed my hand to stop me. Furious, she yelled, "Stop acting crazy. I'm not a homewrecker. Sherry, apologize to me right now." I spat in her face. In your dreams. If you dare show up in front of me again, I'll kill you. Hedda's face went deathly pale. She started crying, "Sherry, please wake up. Stop torturing me." When Vincent came downstairs, I was pulling Hedda's hair, fighting her. She was still trying to protect me, making sure I didn't fall. But I did fall. I scraped my skin, bled, and even lost control of my bladder. That day, I said a lot of irrational things, hurting my family and friends. Vincent and Hedda had a huge fight. He wrapped me in his coat and took me to the hospital. When I woke up from that dream, the hospital room was quiet. Vincent was standing with his back to me, talking on the phone. My wife is sick. If it wasn't for your careless words, she wouldn't have pushed you into the water. I was just joking, the woman's voice sounded familiar. Vincent's voice was icy. You called her a burden, right in front of her. You call that a joke? If it weren't for the security cameras in the villa, I wouldn't even know what you did to her. The woman started screaming, I'm her sister. What's wrong with me saying a few things? You call yourself her sister? Do you think just because Sherry's sick, I would ever like you? Dream on. I deeply regret ever letting you near her. What you did to my wife is unforgivable. Aren't you afraid I'll have her committed to a mental hospital? Vincent laughed coldly. Aren't you alive and well? I gave you the best treatment. You'd better be smart about this. I will never let Sherry carry the weight of a murder. If someone dies, it will be because of me. I stood barefoot on the floor and called his name, Vincent. Vincent stopped speaking and silently hung up the phone. When he turned around, his expression was gentle. What's wrong? I finally understood why, through all the chaos, Vincent kept telling me not to hurt others. The person who spoke to me that day in the villa, was it her? Vincent reached out and held me. Yes. I almost drowned her. It's okay. She didn't die. But for pushing you into the water, I won't let her off easily. He sighed softly. The doctor said removing the nursery room might help reduce your stress, which is why I asked your sister to come. I didn't expect she had her own agenda. After I got sick, my family and friends gave up on me. Only Vincent hadn't given up. Leaning on his shoulder, I whispered, I want to go home. Can we go home? When we got back, I liked to sit alone in a corner, staring out the window. With Vincent seriously ill for a while, his company was a mess. He was swamped with work, barely able to keep up. We hired a caretaker to watch over me when Vincent wasn't around. I found a pair of movie tickets in Vincent's pocket for a film called Ambiguity. Turns out, he had planned to take me. But that day, I was in a bad mood, lashed out at him, and we never went. There was also that ultrasound report showing everything was normal. I wasn't pregnant, but I kept deluding myself, making Vincent set up a nursery, going to the hospital for folic acid. People said Vincent had no family left. I was his only family. But I caused him so much trouble. Sherry, what are you looking at? It was February, with snow falling constantly outside. A few days ago, the pine tree outside the window had even snapped under the weight. Vincent came home from work, still smelling like snow. He was a bit cold. I held up the half-knitted sweater in my hands. I was wondering if you'll get to wear this before winter ends. No rush, Vincent sat next to me by the window. You'll finish it in time for next year. I leaned over and gave him a soft kiss. By accident, my fingers brushed against the ring on his left hand. Vincent flinched, ready to take it off, but I stopped him. I remember this. I unfolded his hand, studying the ugly ring. It's from the design I drew. Yeah, he nodded and pulled out another ring from his pocket, this one set with a diamond. They're a pair. But last time, I called it disgusting. It doesn't matter. If you don't like it, I'll hide it away. When you like it again, I'll wear it. I held out my ring finger. Put it on me. I like it now. In the days that followed, I started to feel like my old self again. Vincent would sit with me, looking through old photos, taking me back to relive our past. He patiently stitched together the pieces of my broken memory, trying to restore what we once had. One day, I got a call from my sister. She was crying and begging me, Sherry, please ask Vincent to forgive me. I really know I was wrong. I didn't know what Vincent had done to her, but it scared her so much. Her fear started to affect me, and I accidentally hurt Vincent again. Once I came to my senses, I blocked her number. In the spring, Vincent took me to see the cherry blossoms. The weather was warm, and I had fewer and fewer outbursts. Vincent would smile and praise me, Sherry, you're amazing. You're getting so much better. But I knew the real reason I was calmer was because I couldn't remember much anymore. I didn't even remember why I used to get angry. On our anniversary, I got out of bed and followed Vincent around the house. In just 10 minutes, I asked him 5 times, who are you? Vincent's smile was hard to hold on to. Sherry, I'm your husband, Vincent. I started forgetting where I was going more and more often. I often wake up and find myself in the police station. Vincent hurriedly rushed over from an important meeting, his face filled with anxiety. He held me tightly, saying over and over, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm so glad you're okay. One caregiver after another came and went. Because I would only listen to Vincent. They were afraid of me, and they couldn't handle me. The doctor suggested that Vincent send me to a nursing home. A place with security, surveillance, and professional staff to properly take care of me. Vincent refused. I'd rather keep her by my side than let her go somewhere without me, living in fear. After that, he started bringing me to his office. During meetings, I would sit next to him, playing with building blocks. One day, when I was in the bathroom, I overheard people laughing at Vincent. A big CEO of a listed company, bringing his girlfriend to work every day like she's mentally impaired. Hilarious. Maybe it's all for show. If the stock price stays stable, we all benefit. Then I'll be praying for the boss and his lady to stay together forever. Haha, I saw her wet herself once, and Vincent even squatted down to clean it up for her. So gross. I waited in the bathroom until they had all left before coming out. Looking at myself in the mirror, my shirt had come untucked from my skirt, and the zipper on my skirt was misaligned. I tried to fix it, but I just couldn't get it right. I knew I had to leave. A few days ago, Sherry caught a cold and got sick. She didn't want to go to the office with Vincent, no matter what. He quickly arranged for a caregiver to watch over her, planning to handle some urgent matters at work before rushing back to be with her. Before he left that morning, Sherry ran over and kissed him. She even took his wedding ring off his finger. She said she wanted to send it for cleaning. Vincent promised Sherry that when he came back, he would bring her some cupcakes from a bakery in the suburbs. During the day, some issues came up at work that delayed him. When he finally got home, the evening sun was casting brilliant rays across the marble floor. In the kitchen, the caregiver was humming while brushing egg wash on some pastries. Vincent asked, "Where's Sherry?" "She's sleeping upstairs." Vincent walked upstairs and noticed that the embroidered sachet hanging on the wall was gone. There was also a hair tie missing from the shelf. Frowning slightly, he hurriedly pushed open the bedroom door. The sunset filtered through the glass, shining brightly. The room was empty. The bed was neatly made, and on top of it lay a letter. Vincent's hands trembled as he opened it. Sherry's handwriting was messy, and the ink color varied, suggesting she had written it over a long period. It was a breakup letter for Vincent. "Vincent, I've always thought that the decision we made in 2015 was the right one. I asked the doctor, and there won't be many more days of clarity in the future. As much as I want to stay with you, I'm terrified of our future. Just as you love me and can't bear to see me in pain, I love you too. That's why I hope your future will be bright and full of hope. This is where our journey together ends. I found a nursing home where I can spend the rest of my life in peace. I once promised to celebrate your birthday every year, but I won't be able to keep that promise anymore. In the future, I may not even remember, so I'm wishing you a happy birthday in advance, many times over. Someday, you'll find someone else who loves you and spend your life with her. I'm sorry, breaking up like this is cruel. But I don't have much time left in my moments of clarity. One moment of weakness could lead to hurting you, and I don't want to take that risk. Vincent, I'm glad I met you. Goodbye." The sun slipped past the window and dipped below the horizon. The light dimmed. The dolls in the room were gone, and all traces of Sherry's life had vanished completely. Vincent suddenly covered his face and broke down in tears. At the end of spring, Sherry had finally left him for good. This seaside city has no distinct seasons. The wind from the ocean always carries a slight chill, but it's never biting. Today's the Mid-Autumn Festival. Don't you have any family? Sherry was sitting by the window folding paper, while the caregiver behind her complained as she tidied the bed. "I was supposed to be on leave. If it weren't for you, I'd be home right now." Sherry couldn't quite understand the caregiver's accent. Even the paper folding competition she heard about recently had been explained to her through bits and pieces. "Stop folding already. No one's even participating in that competition." The caregiver snatched the paper frog from Sherry's hand and tossed it into the trash. In the first few months after she arrived, the staff at the nursing home treated her decently, since she had no family but was still mentally clear. But nobody could tolerate her unpredictable mood swings for long. She didn't like interacting with people and was stubborn. Every day, she stayed in her room, folding paper frogs and scattering them everywhere. The caregiver hurriedly finished cleaning the room and left. Today was the Mid-Autumn Festival, and many patients' families had come to visit and were in the cafeteria. She had to go help out. Sherry stayed in the small room until around 1 p.m., when hunger set in. Driven by instinct, she left her room to look for the kitchen, but she got lost along the way. When Vincent arrived at the nursing home after a long journey, he saw his Sherry stumbling, chasing after a scarf blown by the wind. The staff walking by didn't even bat an eye. She couldn't catch it and fell down, spilling a pile of paper frogs from her backpack. Vincent ordered the driver to stop and quickly walked toward Sherry. Suddenly, a security guard stopped him. "Sir, who are you?" Vincent's driver handed the guard a business card. "This gentleman is her family. Inform the director immediately." Vincent reached Sherry and helped her up from the ground. Sherry, looking disheveled, stared at Vincent in confusion. "Who are you?" "I'm Vincent." Such a handsome man forcing a smile, it looked terrible. Sherry felt a little sorry for him and shoved her whole backpack into his arms. Vincent opened it to find it full of paper frogs. "Are these for me?" Sherry nodded. Vincent slung the little backpack over his shoulder and pulled out a handkerchief to gently wipe her face. Suddenly, Sherry started to cry. "I'm so hungry." Vincent knew it, someone must have been mistreating Sherry when he wasn't around. His heart ached, and he couldn't hold back his own tears. "Why are you crying?" Sherry wiped Vincent's tears, flustered. "I'm not hungry anymore, don't cry." Vincent hugged her tightly, his long-suppressed emotions finally breaking through. He really scared Sherry. Crying, laughing, and holding on, refusing to let go. Sherry thought this man was a little crazy. Just outside, Vincent was furiously confronting the nursing home director. Sherry had paid, but she wasn't getting the care she deserved, all because she had no family. When Vincent came back into the room with a stern face, Sherry was clutching a stuffed animal, ready to run. Vincent grabbed her and sighed, "Don't run off." To Sherry, it suddenly felt like she had a temperamental male nanny. Not only was he good-looking, but he also had a temper when it came to others. But he treated her really well. She started to like him. "How do I start folding the frog?" Vincent asked, genuinely interested. Sherry explained seriously, "First, you need a square, and then you do this." Vincent learned quickly and folded the frogs very well. What would have taken her a month, he finished in 3 days. With nothing left to teach him, Sherry was a bit frustrated. "I have nothing else to show you. You can go now." But Vincent was persistent. "In return, I could take you out for some fun." Sherry, being soft-hearted, didn't really know how to refuse, especially someone she liked a little. On a warm, sunny afternoon, Vincent took Sherry home. She no longer remembered their past. Looking at the photos on the wall, she said, "Your girlfriend is really pretty." Vincent bent down and kissed her lips. "That's you." Sherry blushed and covered her mouth. "You're so forward." Vincent led her around the house, showing her every corner. Post-it notes covered the walls, filled with stories about their life together. Sherry stood by the railing and read them. As she read on, a wave of sadness washed over her. It felt as though she had truly lost something. Vincent never forced her to remember anything. Every day, he would still take Sherry to the office. Ever since those gossiping employees were fired, no one dared to spread rumors anymore. On the way home from work, Vincent would still buy her little cakes, have her sit in the passenger seat, and hum tunes while talking about random, fanciful things. Many people whispered in private that Vincent's future seemed hopeless. But what they didn't know was that as long as Sherry was there, every day was bright for him. Sherry's memory came flooding back one evening. It was a Friday, and after-work traffic had choked the wide roads. Red brake lights flickered like waves in the glow of the setting sun. Sherry heard a familiar song, the theme from the movie Ambiguity. The memory of Vincent, carrying a guitar and confessing his love to her in the evening breeze, suddenly rushed into her mind. She looked up abruptly, staring at the man before her, a man who was no longer young. Memory surged. It turned out, she had loved him for all these years. "Vincent." Sherry called his name softly. "Hmm?" Vincent thought she was just interested in something by the roadside again, so he turned his gaze toward her, but his eyes met hers, bright and glistening with tears. At that moment, he felt his blood freeze. The love of his life, the woman he had waited for, had finally remembered him. Sherry smiled, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you for letting me wake up and find myself still sitting next to you." Vincent pulled the car over to the side of the road and hugged her tightly. Years of pent-up emotions turned into tears that soaked her collar. "You said that when you remember everything, you'll tell me where you've hidden your ID card." Vincent's voice was hoarse. "Let's get married, okay?" The warmth of dusk hadn't yet faded, and they kissed. After all the seasons that had passed, Vincent had finally kept Sherry by his side. End